We are going live. Hopefully I have audio. Do I have audio? You'll tell me in just a second, as the questions should fly in, as I hopefully am able to answer them. Very difficult to answer questions without audio. And they're telling me I have audio. I'm here. Welcome to the fantasy football season. I am your host of the fantasy football season, Jason Moore of the Fantasy Footballers, here to bring you into the joyful glory days of August and September. We're almost there, right? What is this? July 28th this year. Man, has it just flown by. I will let time go by here as people come in, the Foot Clan files in. If you're just clicking on me for the first time, you've never heard of the Fantasy Footballers, welcome. All are welcome to listen, to have fun, to win your leagues. It's all good times. Happy to have you here. I'm more happy that my audio is working this time, and we're going to take plenty of questions, help you out. If you have questions, write them in Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you are. We should be going to most all the locations. If you're getting into fantasy football right now for the first time in a while, the Ultimate Draft Kit is hot. It's great. We are updating it all the time, including today as news has been breaking. You can get that at ultimatedraftkit.com. But I'm going to take a look at some questions here and get started. First question up looks like it is Preston Williams or Mike Gesicki. And I totally like this question because I like both players. And I have been in drafts where I certainly don't want both of them. It's like you want to hedge when you're betting on the Dolphins and when you're betting on a year two Ryan Fitzpatrick, the magic usually vanishes. So if I have to take a shot on one of these guys, assuming redraft, I'm going to take it on Gesicki because I think that it's harder to find a good tight end. I can pivot off of Preston Williams to a number of other players, and I like Preston Williams a little bit more in Dynasty rather than a redraft. He's still coming off of his ACL, which happened mid-season. I would go Gesicki here. Now, here's another great question, very similar. Two players on the same team, Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara. That's what you're dealing with when you're at that 4 spot, 4-5. A lot of times we just went through the divisional preview and walked through the Saints. I'm taking Alvin Kamara here. Alvin Kamara is plain and simply a great running back. If you look at his efficiency numbers, they're outstanding. And last year he got injured, which was in the minds of people. And then coming back from the injury, he wasn't that good. Plus, if you look at the touchdown percentage that Drew Brees had versus his norm and what the Saints had passing versus running over the last couple of years, basically everything is in line for Alvin Kamara to be great again. They didn't do anything or change anything as a team, as an offense, and on film he didn't lose anything. He was great until the high ankle sprain, which took some time to kind of come back from. But it did for Saquon Barkley, and I don't see people worrying about him. So I have very few worries about Alvin Kamara. I'm going to take the running back over the wide receiver, but obviously you're not going to go wrong with either of these players. Let's see. New question. We've got Juju in the top 10 PPR this year, assuming Big Ben's health. Juju. Oh, what to do with Juju Smith-Schuster? He was one of my favorite players coming into last season. I took a bath in that. But I also get a free pass because you lost the quarterback. But obviously he wasn't even the best wide receiver on his team last year. Deontay Johnson had more relevance than Juju. Here's what I believe. I believe Juju Smith-Schuster is a great wide receiver. Plain and simple, I think he's awesome. His breakout age, the dominating stats he put up, you could say, oh, well, he doesn't have Antonio Brown on the other side of the field. You don't luck into 1,400 yards receiving, as a 21-year-old. That doesn't happen. And so I do give a free pass last year. However, the part of this question that I think is worrisome is, well, assuming Big Ben's health. Sure, yeah, but I don't know that we should assume that. So I'm not drafting Juju as a top 10 because I think Big Ben, players in older age tend to have more of a difficult time recovering from injury. We saw that with Peyton Manning, right? I mean, as soon as he got to a certain age, he came back from the neck issue, no problem. But years later, when he was older and Big Ben is older, all of a sudden an injury just said, yeah, you're done. You can't really come back from this. So Juju, I think, is a very high upside pick, but I'm not going to I'm not going to put him in the top 10 as far as where I'm drafting him. All right, let's see. Here's a question I get all the time. When is the next episode of Jason Eats dropping? Look, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube, you probably haven't even seen these magnificent episodes of Jason Eats where I eat things that people say are really good, that sound disgusting. Things like Mike Wright putting cottage cheese in his SpaghettiOs, which is not that good, or in a pinch having to eat cereal with water. I don't recommend it. I would just eat it dry. That's success. But yeah, when is that coming? My next episode of Jason Eats, I assume, will come after my first loss in fantasy football, where I need to punish myself by eating something disgusting. So subscribe on YouTube for that. All right, Max Rogers has a question. Oh, and a brag. My team is stacked at wide receivers. I need a running back one. Drake owner is willing to trade him for a 2021 and 2022 first and second. Is it worth it? That's a lot to give up this sounds like a dynasty league for a running back who, while he doesn't have a lot of usage on his legs, he is still older for a running back standard. He's not, a first or second year player. He's on a 1-year contract right now, and I love Kenyon Drake. I mean, spoiler here, he's probably going to be one of my guys. I'm taking him in the first round, and I am fully confident he's going to be great this year. So if you're saying I'm going after the championship this year, and you want to give up that capital, maybe you're a champ last year in your dynasty league, or a champ the year before, or a champ both of those years, like I am in our fantasy footballers dynasty league, and you want to go champ, as I'm going to do this year, then maybe. But otherwise, I think you're mortgaging the future for too short of a time period. If I'm trading 2021 and 2022 first and second, I'm getting a young stud wide receiver that I know I'm going to have for a long time, not someone who could end up with one great year. And then if you're not aware of the free agent running back class after this season, whoo boy, I would not want to be a rookie running back next year coming into the draft when all the talent is out there in the free agency world. Let's see here. Next question. Do you think John Ross has any value at the end of the draft? No, I don't. I like John Ross. I have him on my champ dynasty roster. I think he is better than he gets credit for, and I don't see value for this season. I don't see value for this season in a redraft league. Joe Burrow is someone I believe in very strongly in the future, but coming into this season, shortened off season, no preseason, and in general, great rookies. There are very few that have thrown for 4,000 yards. So if you're talking about, what is he, the third best wide receiver on this team, the fourth best wide receiver? We don't know where he lines up, but if you're splitting 4,000 yards and he's behind, AJ Green, behind Tyler Boyd, maybe behind T. Higgins, John Ross in a redraft league is not someone I'm touching. All right, Ryan Aceman has a question. Also, thank everybody I want to thank you for coming on. These questions are coming in so fast that I can't fathomably read one. So I'm just clicking at random and hoping it's a good question. Hey, Jason. Hey, Ryan. What's up? Say hi to your mother for me. 14 team, half PPR, picking at the 105. Cook, Thomas, Henry, or other, assuming that those top 4 running backs are gone. So earlier we had the Kamara, Michael Thomas question. Now it's like, okay, I went Kamara. What do I do at the 5 spot? In a half PPR, so full PPR, that's probably where I would take Michael Thomas. In a half PPR, this becomes a little bit more questionable. You kind of have a tier break for me at running backs because Dalvin Cook is tempting there. I think he is, and he did report to get tested at the facilities, so he's in camp. And that, if you knew he was playing, maybe he should be in the argument with Alvin Kamara for the number 4 pick. He's still an injury risk. He still hasn't been able to stay healthy, but you can get Alexander Mattison late. I would still pair him even without the worry about training camp. So I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook there, but it would be between him and Michael Thomas before I grab any of those other running backs at this point now. All right, next question. While I'm looking for a question here, don't forget about the Ultimate Draft Kit. You could get it you don't have to win your league, but if you want to, ultimatedraftkit.com. All right, keep trade cut. Oh no, Brooks, wet socks, and gingivitis. I'm keeping Brooks. Brooks is a national treasure. And if you don't know Brooks, our producer from the main show, the judge himself, Judge Giamatti, he's the glue that holds so much together. So he's going nowhere. I don't know how much trade value I'm going to get for gingivitis. Someone out there will want wet socks. So I'm cutting gingivitis and wet socks. I apologize that I have traded wet socks to you, but you got to do what you got to do. All right, here. What is your advice for auction drafts? We do have auction rankings in the Ultimate Draft Kit. People, if you're in one of those specific leagues, Dynasty, auction, and you don't see those normal rankings everywhere, they are in the Ultimate Draft Kit. My advice for auctions is usually different than the consensus of the fantasy footballers. Like Mike Wright is into the studs and duds. He likes to pay up because you can grab whoever you want. You can pay up for CMC and Saquon or Zeke, get 2 of those guys and spend a lot of your money to just have a dominant core of stars. And then you're going to end up just taking value picks late in drafts. I think that strategy works. This year it might be a little bit more difficult because you might need a little bit more depth if someone pops up, has to go on the temporary IR. But in general, I guess I just like I like having a team that has more depth, and I feel like because of the tier-based rankings, I can value players in their tier better in an auction. So my tips are never start or end a tier. Meaning when you go for that first player in a whatever tier of players are left, if the first guy is nominated, he's going for a lot. And once you get to that last player who's nominated, he's going to go for a lot because everyone's going to be like, man, he's the last one at this tier. I need to get a wide receiver here. But if you go for those middle guys, if there's 4 guys in the tier, don't get the first one, don't get the last. Get one of those middle 2 guys. And as the draft goes along, you're going to end up with a really valuable, deep team. All right, next question. Who's your dark horse rookie wide receiver candidate that you could snag really late or get off of waivers? Okay, so I would say this rules out Jalen Reagor, Jerry Jeudy, 2 guys I love, Justin Jefferson. They're not off of waiver type of guys. The 2 players that come to mind that I don't see drafted in most leagues would be Michael Pittman Jr. I think he's exceptionally talented. He comes from a lineage of National Football League players. He's got Phillip Rivers. His comp really would be Mike Williams coming in, Mike Williams rookie year, where he got 10 touchdowns. He's the big body downfield receiver. So for the Colts, I think Michael Pittman would be a great dart throw there. And then, I said I don't want John Ross, but if we're talking waiver wire guys, T. Higgins, I'm not an AJ Green believer. I don't think he's going to get back. And if he doesn't, you're going to see what you saw, or you could see what you saw when AJ Green came into the league with Andy Dalton, and those 2 rookie picks were like, it's you and me for a long time. And Joe Burrow and T. Higgins are coming in with their first 2 picks. Like, it's you and me. They are the future of the franchise. So why not get it started in year 1? Why not just say, you're the future. The future is now. So I'm going to throw to T. Higgins. Those are the 2 wide receivers that I would look at here. All right. Tampa Bay tight ends. Who you got? Me personally, I got none of them. I don't want O.J. Howard. That experiment has been tried and failed. I do think he is the physically most talented guy, but the most talented wide receiver or tight end on the team is Gronk. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason. He's not that old, and he's had some time to recover. So If I had to take one, it would be Gronk, but I'm just not a believer here. Look, when Gronk was dominant, that was when Brady was obviously younger. That was when Gronk was younger. It's been a while since we've seen Gronk be dominant or even in the NFL. But he was also like the number one target for the team, or at least the 1A. You know, you had the Wes Welker, Julian Edelman taking the higher volume targets, but less valuable. But then it was Gronk. And now it's like, no, this is Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. At best, Gronk is third. And then he's splitting that with other tight ends in that situation. So my answer to Tampa Bay tight ends is no, thank you. All right, let's see here. Next question. Best spot to draft in a 12-man half PPR redraft. It's probably number one. I mean, you know, every year it's like, oh, do you want to get as late as you can with those top running backs? I like being near the turns. We've had a lot of questions here already on this live stream, and welcome in if you're just joining. Ask your questions about what do you do at the 4, the 5, the 6, those middle picks. Are you taking Michael Thomas? Are you taking the tier of running back that you don't really love and you're like, man, I wish I had that top tier? So for me, I'm either at the beginning of the round or the end. So I want the first 2 picks to end up the first 3 picks are fine if you want to end up with Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, or Zeke. I love all 3 of them. And then at the end of the first, there is a lot of value there because some of those players, I don't expect Dalvin Cook to fall there now that he's, you know, in camp, but that's where I have been getting him. I like Kenyon Drake there. Derrick Henry sometimes falls that late. And then in the second round, you can grab someone like Josh Jacobs, who I am a big believer in as a great breakout season. A good friend of the show, Graham Barfield, was tweeting out an Austin Eckler is greater than Josh Jacobs in PPR leagues this season, and he could be. I don't have it that way, but in kind of going back and forth with him on Twitter, I did a little bit of research and looked at all the great since 2000. Who are the great running backs who didn't get targets in year one? And there is not an example. There wasn't one that I could find whose targets didn't go up a significant amount in year 2, whether that was Adrian Peterson or Cadillac Williams or Marshawn Lynch, Todd Gurley. You know, it's like, oh, well, they caught the ball a lot in their career. Yeah, but they didn't the rookie year. They were fewer than 30 targets, just like Josh Jacobs. I think coming into year 2, you saw few routes run for Josh Jacobs. That's, you know, look, Gruden's going to want the guys when you're down and it's known passing downs. He wants someone in that can pass protect, knows the route tree a little bit better, is more of a veteran. Well, Josh Jacobs is a veteran now. They've talked about getting him involved, so I would love to grab him at the end of the second round. All right, as I look for a question here, don't forget to subscribe to all of our social channels. We're going live all week. So Andy's going live tomorrow. You know, Mike or me or Andy will be live all week long as, you know, training camps are opening up. Football is getting exciting. So subscribe, click the bell, and make sure you've got your notifications on so that we can pop up and answer your questions as we're getting back into the hype season. All right, Benji has a question. Amari Cooper dynasty value. To me, it is very high. I love Amari Cooper's talent. We've talked a lot on the show about how he is inconsistent. Our last episode, we went through a game that Mike brought up. Amari Cooper or Marvin Jones was the name of the game, and it definitely showed that in his career to date, he has been very inconsistent and not as valuable as where he is being drafted right now. Like, you know, Amari Cooper is obviously a top wide receiver pick, but when you look at what he's been able to do and you look at how he did it with Dak Prescott before he got injured last year, he's 26 years old. He's coming into his prime. He was just paid $100 million on a long-term contract. So if we're talking about dynasty value, Dak is going to be re-signed there. You know, he has played the game and won. The Cowboys have played the game and lost when it comes to contract chicken. But he'll end up re-signing. There's an offense that you love looking forward. He's young, matched with a young quarterback. There's very few guys like that. I mean, you've got, you know, Tyreek Hill and what was Devontae Adams. Now you're starting to get a little bit worried of like, well, is Aaron Rodgers the future here? Because Aaron Rodgers is saying I'm not the future there now. I don't know if you've seen that come out, and he's not bitter about it, but he's like, yeah, it's obviously this is going to be Love's team going forward because they traded up and drafted him. They like him. They're going to want to play him at some point. But there's very few really wide receiver ones who are paired with a young quarterback that have a long-term contract, and he's one of them. So I like Amari Cooper for dynasty value. All right, Kyle has a question. This better be good, Kyle. Don't waste my time. Nobody wastes my time. I'm wasting your time now by not asking the question. When going running back with your first 2 picks, what's been your favorite duo to draft? Oh, man. So it is really – so I can tell you the second. The second is Josh Jacobs. He's my favorite in the second round that I've seen go high in the second, but I've seen him go late in the second. He almost got back to us, and this would be more in a super flex league, but in the Scotty Fishbowl league, we were almost able to grab him and pair him with Christian McCaffrey. He went 1 pick ahead of where we were hoping. So I would say if you can't pair him with the 101, if you could start with Zeke at the 3 spot and get Josh Jacobs on the way back, that would be a dream come true for me personally. All right, rookie quarterback question from Ben. Herbert or Tua? Let's talk about this for fantasy and for 2020, because I think long-term prospects as just NFL players, you would presume Tua. He was drafted higher, was higher touted, and all of those. But as far as in 2020, for fantasy football, I'm still going Tua. I don't think Herbert's going to be valuable. Do I think Herbert gets on the field before Tua? Yeah, I do. And I think when he's on the field before Tua, I'm not going to put him in my roster. I mean, I'm not saying Herbert is terrible or can't be, a productive NFL quarterback. I don't expect him to be a high-producing fantasy quarterback. The nice thing is, in college, he did check it down a lot. So, I've talked a lot about Austin Eckler and the fact that Phillip Rivers leaving and Tyrod Taylor coming in is terrible for his pass catching. Nobody's really brought up what happens when Herbert comes in. And I think when Herbert comes in, it will be better for Eckler because he did dump it off a lot in college. But when he goes long, I just don't think he's got the accuracy, especially year one as a rookie, to be productive in the NFL. So I'm going to go Tua out of those two for pretty much however you're asking the question. Fantasy, NFL, 2020, long-term. All right, here is a question. These guys must be going around the same spot. Julio or Aaron Jones in a half PPR? It's Julio. If I'm at the point where I'm taking, a running back who, even though he was, the running back 2 or 3, depending on your scoring format last season, he's not a top tier running back. Aaron Jones, everybody knows the touchdown rate that he had was unsustainable. That's going to come down. They drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round, so now does he lose a couple of inside the 5 carries? Also, I would imagine that the pendulum's going to swing. They had so many games where they were just winning, even though they were one-score games, they won them all, and that favors the running back. If they get down a little bit in some of these games, they'll have to throw the ball more, put it in Aaron Rodgers' hands, not have quite the same pass-to-rush ratio, whereas Julio should be even better this year than last year. You have no Mohamed Sanu for the entirety of the season. You lost Austin Hooper. Nothing you saw in Julio, despite his age, says that he's lost anything. So, it's like a guarantee that you're getting a top 5 wide receiver in Julio Jones. If he plays 16, it's a guarantee. You don't have that guarantee in Aaron Jones. So that's the tier where I start going over to the wide receiver position. Here's actually an important question. Jeremy Judd, boxers or briefs? Timeless question. Very relevant for everybody listening. Important. And here's what I know. I know it's not briefs. That's what I know. Now, the best is boxer briefs. I don't know why this fight has had to divide people so much, but boxer briefs just gives you the best of all worlds, and all of my drawer are boxer briefs. But if I can only pick boxers or briefs, come on, man. It's not 1970. I'm not walking out in my briefs. I'm not a grandpa yet. Let's see here. Next question. Is Damien Harris worth drafting? Writers? Okay. I'm not a writer, so I don't know that I can answer this question. Here's the funny thing with Damien Harris. He's the rookie running back selected in the 3rd round last year for the Patriots. The timeline for Sony Michel is, he's questionable. He could start the season on the pup. And so you say, well, they invested in him last year. 3rd round is good capital for a running back. And I liked him. I liked Damien Harris coming out of college. So yeah, maybe that's a sneaky pickup. But why would we say it's Damien Harris when he got fewer carries last year than half of the season injured N'Keal Harry, who was a wide receiver, instead of Rex Burkhead? And I know Rex Burkhead is – here's why. Because Rex Burkhead, we know what he is. He's not going to be the superstar. He's not going to be phenomenal and great. Because Damien Harris got absolutely no work last year, there's the what could be. Could he explode and surprise everybody? Look, he didn't get on the field. The first 3 weeks of last season before Rex Burkhead got injured, he was actually good for fantasy. So if I have to take a Patriots running back late, I'm actually going to go with Rex Goathead, as Mike would stupidly say, Rex Burkhead over Damien Harris. I do hope Damien Harris has a good season because I liked him coming out of college. There you go. Let's see. Next question. Carson, Gurley, or Bell? There is this tier of running backs that are all so weird this year. They're kind of a little bit more war-torn, aged up. You've got Le'Veon Bell, Chris Carson, Todd Gurley. You could throw in David Johnson, Melvin Gordon. These kind of former stars who are either dealing with an injured body, an injured older body, or have changed teams, and you're kind of wondering, who do you draft? And I think the truth is because of, all the questions, you're probably going to get about half of these right and half of these wrong. These are the rounds where a lot of these guys are going to bust. Not everybody's going to be good. And if I'm looking at these 3 players in a PPR league between Carson, Gurley, or Bell, I think I will surprise. Oh man, this is tough. This is tough because I like Gurley. I do. And I have been made fun of recently on the show for that. So with some pretty good statistics. So the reality is, Gurley is coming into a situation that is really good. Devonta Freeman has always been a pass-catching back. No team has lost more targets in the NFL than the Atlanta Falcons, and we have studies that kind of prove that when vacated targets are high, the running back position is who the main beneficiary is. Todd Gurley last year, yeah, he was inefficient, but he also wasn't thrown to that much, and he is a great pass-catching back. So I think the pass-catching work is going to be there in a full PPR for Todd Gurley. Chris Carson, we don't know his injury status. Le'Veon Bell, I'm not sure if he's washed or not. But when I pick Gurley out of this list, it is not with confidence. It's not with any special knowledge that you guys don't have. This and throwing David Johnson in there, Melvin Gordon in there. These guys are all in a little, one of those ball hoppers. You're playing roulette with any of these guys. They all have reasons why they could succeed, reasons why they fail. If you're just making your decision based on the variables, which maybe that's the way to go, is to say, well, who has the fewest question marks, right? Lev Bell was inefficient last year. Is their offensive line really better? They've invested in it, but I don't know that it will make that step forward. Gurley is changing teams. Then that answer would be Chris Carson. He was good last year. He is playing for the same team. That offense is good. Rashad Penny, his main, competition, is injured, and now it's Carlos Hyde there. So probably the safest pick would be Chris Carson, but we don't always play fantasy safe, We're wild. All right, next question. How long has this been? I've been on here, feels like Feels like 1 minute. Time flies when you're with friends, when you're with your best friends. And you, yes, you are my best friend. Ask your questions. I promise I will get to them all. No, that's a lie. I can't even see these questions as they come in. What is your outlook on Gigantor Mo Alie-Cox after being placed on the pup? Well, it's worse. I don't think he's going to score a lot of fantasy points on the pup. It's worth noting right now, players that are being put on the pup, they can come off at any time. This isn't, once you're on the pup to start the season, you're going to miss 6 games guaranteed. Right now, this is just allowing the most people to be, in the facilities as possible. We've seen a couple, a couple of other players. I'm laughing here because I see a question come in from Slay. If Slay, this sounds like a weirdo. Slay is our intern. He helps out. Big TikTok or Snapchat guy. Well, we are on TikTok, and we're killing it. And by killing it, I mean, Slay, you're killing it over there on TikTok. So if you want to follow us on TikTok, search the Fantasy Footballers. We've got a lot of fun, content over there for all you kids, for all you little baby boys and girls. Go to TikTok, have a fun time. All right, let's see here. Here's a good question. Chubb, Jacobs, and Mixon. I will order these because I think based on this conversation, everybody knows I'm taking Jacobs first. Andy is Mr. Mixon. Andy loves Mixon. What he did the second half of the year, he's all about that. I would take Jacobs over Mixon. I assume Andy would take Mixon over Jacobs. I'm going to go Jacobs, Mixon, Chubb. I think all three are good players. There's something I worry about with Mixon where it's like he's been in the league long enough and he's been given the opportunity to be great, and he's had stretches. The second half of last year was pretty good. The first half of last year was terrible. People spent a high pick on him and dropped him. It was that bad. It was so bad that it's like, well, this is never going to change. And we just don't know how the Bengals are going to be with a rookie at quarterback. So I'm a little bit more worried than Andy is on Joe Mixon. Let's see here. Next question. This one is from me to me, apparently, or at least from this Jason Moore to this Jason Moore. You like Russ or Kyler more this year? That's a great question. The comp is there for both guys, except early career Russ ran the ball more. He doesn't run the ball as much now, so maybe that puts Kyler as the leg up. I'm going to pull up my projections here just to see in a 6-point format. I have Kyler Murray at 5 and Russell Wilson at 6. So clearly, I love Kyler way more. I mean, they're both good. I genuinely believe those are two players that could finish as the quarterback 1 in the best case scenario, quarterback 3 in a more realistic scenario when you're kind of carving out Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. All right. Thanks, Jason Moore. That was a great question by a great guy with a great name. All right. I got to pick 2 of these, Golladay, Kupp, or Thielen. Galladay's in. He's he's a young stud who was great last year, even with half of a season of Matthew Stafford. Kupp or Thielen, this is where I think having Golladay makes a difference. Thielen, to me, is a little bit safer in the sense that he is the clear-cut number 1 for an NFL franchise, and I don't think the Vikings are going to have the same great defense as last year, so they're not going to be able – they want to run the ball as much as they did last year, but I just don't think they'll be able to. Thielen will have a secure volume and is great. Kupp, at the end of last year, he was on the field for like 60% of snaps. Those last 5 games when they started running more 2 tight end sets and playing a different way, that is scary for Kupp's outlook. But the upside is higher with Kupp. He has basically, when he's been on the field, even when he was on the field 60% of the time, he was really good because he got touchdowns left, right, and center. He's only one of 2 players to have double-digit touchdowns last year. So I'm going to take Golladay and Kupp here and swing for the upside because I already have a great, if I had to pick between Kupp and Thielen for my wide receiver 1, it would be a little closer. But as my wide receiver 2, I'm going upside. All right, let's find a new question here. Almost all these questions look like they're coming in from, Lauren Carpenter saying 12 personnel will hurt Kupp. Stepmom Lauren with all the fancy vernacular. Look at you. Also, she's a writer for the Fantasy Footballers, so I can give her crap because we're close friends. We're good buds. All right, let's see here. Chris Molina, who is your number 1 target for a late round quarterback? That's a good question. I don't really, some years I go in with like, this is the guy I'm going for. I don't have a far and away number 1 guy that I'm absolutely going for, but the names that I find myself grabbing late in drafts as my quarterback 1 the most would probably be Matthew Stafford, Big Ben, Jared Goff. Those 3 are, you can get them very, very late, and any one of them could be a top 5 quarterback this year, or at least be good enough to stream to start the season. And really, there's like 10 other guys late that are, you want to take your shot on Ryan Tannehill? Go ahead. You want to take your shot on, a name we haven't really talked up a lot at all, Baker Mayfield. I know I'm higher than the other 2 guys. Post-hype sleeper. If you remember where he was being drafted last year, he was like Kyler Murray this year. Well, it's not like just because he was not good last year that he wasn't bad his rookie year. Like he was good and then bad. Now he's got a healthy Odell Beckham. I think maybe we're sleeping on Baker a little bit as well. All right, a couple more questions here before I hop off and leave it to one of the other ballers to hop on tomorrow. And I don't know what time of day we're going on. We don't know until you want to know when I knew I was coming on? Right before I came on. I'm like, let's go talk to the Foot Clan. Let's hype football, answer some questions, be there for the people. So just subscribe to whatever platform you're on right now. Obviously, if you're on it, we're going live on these platforms. So subscribe, make sure you turn on your notifications, and whenever we go live all week long, ask your questions. Hopefully we can answer it live in front of you. And if you don't have your Ultimate Draft Kit yet, there is so much good information, and we are upgrading and sneak preview. Our player profiles, they're coming out real soon. They look amazing. They have some of the features that, look, we're players. Mike, Andy, myself, we play the game. We love the game. We're doing this for ourselves as much as we are for you guys. We want to be better at it. And so we're building these player profiles in a way that everything that we think is valuable to look at in a matchup or in history, they're all there. And if you have the Ultimate Draft Kit, there are certain upgrades on that page that we, are just adding as added value to the UDK. So you can get that at theultimatedraftkit.com. All right, a couple more questions here. We'll go with 3 final questions. Rank these wide receivers: Gallup, Hollywood, Tyler Boyd, Jarvis Landry, and DK Metcalf. They're all going in the 6th or 7th round. They're all fine. I don't love Tyler Boyd this year. I would probably pass on him. I really like Gallup. If y'all don't know my love for Hollywood, then y'all don't listen to the Fantasy Footballers. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. Hollywood's my number 1 from this list. I've got him higher. I know for a fact I've got him higher than Gallup and DK Metcalf in my rankings right now. I see just a superstar potential in the talent, in the offense, in the opportunity. He's the clear wide receiver 1 for the team. He has the draft capital. There's nothing to not – the only thing to not like is you don't expect this to be a heavy pass volume team. If they were throwing the ball 575 times or 600 times, he would be being drafted out of control right now. So I'll take him first. DK Metcalf second. Between Gallup and Landry, they're both really good. I find myself wanting Gallup more, but it's dumb because Jarvis Landry, he always outproduces where he's drafted. He always does. And the reason why is because he gets no respect because he's not as flashy. He's not as down the field. But pretty much every single year that he's been in the league, he's a top 15, top 20 wide receiver. And he's young, and he was good last year. I'm still going to take Gallup, then Landry, then Tyler Boyd. All right, 2 questions left. Will it be you? Will you get the golden ticket? I got a golden ticket. All right, here we go. Nope, not doing that question. All right, how would you rank these running backs from Henry Collins? Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, Joe Mixon, or Miles Sanders? We had a really good talk on Miles Sanders on our last episode. Recommend you go and listen to the Eagles breakdown. These are all guys that I like. I project well. I mean, right now, I've got Kenyon Drake and Derrick Henry so close in my rankings. Derrick Henry is ahead of him, but if I was personally in a draft, I would probably take Drake ahead of Henry. The way my stats lay out, if you're just talking about a linear order, it's Henry over Drake. So, there you go. And ironically, same with the next two. If you look at Joe Mixon and Miles Sanders, they are back-to-back in my rankings. I've got Mixon ahead of Sanders, but and this is why we do tier-based rankings instead of just when you go into your draft, you don't want to just look at linear rankings. I've got Joe Mixon 1 spot ahead of Miles Sanders. You want to look at the tier they're in and understand, okay, these guys are all in the same tier, so let's look a little bit deeper as far because what we're doing is we're saying probability dictates, according to me in my rankings, that Joe Mixon will score more points than Miles Sanders. But in the range of outcomes, I don't see Joe Mixon being able to jump into that top 5 range. I just don't see that with this offense right now. Whereas, Miles Sanders could do that. He could take that Christian McCaffrey leap. A lot of people have been making that comparison if you go look at both of their rookie years and now the depth chart there. So I would take Miles Sanders over Joe Mixon. So final answer, I would go Kenyon Drake, Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon. Is this the last question? Did I count that right? I said 3 questions. I think we did 2. Will it be you? Drum roll. That was a drum roll. It was with my lips, but I'm calling that a drum roll. It's bad. It's not good. All right, here we go. Will it be you? I'm taking the next message I see in 3, 2, 1. Boom. What is it? Jazz Whedon, best dynasty running back past the top 5. Okay. Best dynasty running back past the top 5. Off the top of my dome, first name that comes to mind is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because you're not going to take the rookie in the top 5. But if you look at ADP and what happens year after year with youth and running backs, pretty much those rookies that break out just become absolute monster superstars. Let me just assume that the top 5 would be Chris McCaffrey, Zeke, Saquon, Alvin Kamara, and then those are the top 4. I don't know if the 5th one would be Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry. We'll put all of them into that bag and then say you can draft anyone else. I might go Josh Jacobs. I might go Clyde Edwards-Helaire that high. Those are the 2 names that come out to me for a dynasty league if I was doing a startup draft. And that was amazingly and sadly the final question of this live stream. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've been listening to our divisional breakdowns on the Fantasy Footballers podcast. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen. We're going live all week. We're taking your questions left, right, and center. We're here for you. And make sure you get that Ultimate Draft Kit at ultimatedraftkit.com. It has been a pleasure to be with my closest friends here. If you didn't get your question answered, ask it again tomorrow. Peace out.